But yeah, I've had some people, clasp their pearls when it's like, oh, you're talking about cannabis. It's another industry like everything else. So this is really just what this talk is about. So let's get started. My words, my thoughts, my opinions, my hopes, my dreams, anything that I express herein does not represent my employer nor any groups with whom I'm affiliated. So thank you again. If you are not happy with something that I have said, please buy me a drink and talk to me about it later. And don't take it out on any groups I'm involved with. Thank you. Okay, so what this talk is not. It is not proselytizing. I've had people concerned that this was a talk about why you should use cannabis. I don't care whether or not you use it. I'm talking about the financials and the security of it. So this is not a proselytizing talk. It's also not comprehensive. Tried my best, but I only have so much time to present. So it is as comprehensive as I was able to get. And then no FUD. I'm not going to be scaring anybody or anything. So what is this talk then? It's only about legal cannabis, and it is factual. In case you don't know, I'm a former librarian, so facts and citations matter to me. So I did put a lot of care into that. And basically, I just want to kind of show you some best practices of doing research on this topic. Okay, so I have taken all of the links and citations and everything and put it on a blog post on my blog. So if you want to just chill and listen to me, you can just take a picture and go to my blog post later and get all the links. I mean, you're welcome to take pictures during, but I wanted to try and save you guys some time. If you don't like QR codes, I also put the link there. I will have this slide again at the end of my talk, but just to let you know, you can just relax. I'm going to have all the...
Just giving this to you.
Oh, thank you. Okay. What was I saying? Thank you. Yes, thank you. The blog post has all the links, and you can just relax and listen to me. Okay, so what's in store for today? First, I'm going to give you some background information about the cannabis, and about the cannabis industry, and then we're going to go right into what the current status is, what things look like now. And then I'm going to give you the industry risk profile, and then we'll go over some research best practices. Does that sound cool? Everybody good? All right, let's party. You may ask yourself, who wants to finish it? How did we get here? How did we get to this point where I'm even doing a talk on this subject? So what I'm going to give you is a microdose of the history of cannabis in the USA. Hemp madness, 1600s. Hemp cultivation was popular, and it was actually encouraged by the governing powers at the time. So it was a crop, it was very useful, valuable, was grown a lot. Fun fact, hemp was allowed to be exchanged as legal tender in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Maryland. Now, hear me out. Sands is in Virginia. Let's see how many bales of hemp we can get to get a cert, to pay for one. Okay. So everything was footloose and fancy free. Hemp was everywhere. Things were great. Oh, fear mongering. So what happened then? So the Mexican Revolution of 1910, I'm sure you did not think this was where this talk was going, but it is crucial to this topic. The Mexican Revolution of 1910 saw an influx of immigrants from Mexico into the US. Unfortunately, subsequently, fear and prejudice about the Spanish-speaking newcomers, that's a quote from the article, became associated with marijuana. So this was a really dangerous time and it's kind of reflecting current times, where these Mexican immigrants who were just fleeing a bloody revolution, yes, they brought marijuana with them, and because people were scared of the Mexicans and fear and hate, they decided to make marijuana, the scapegoat of everything. That was the cause of all the problems. That's why the Mexicans are claiming that they were committing violent crime because of marijuana. Another quick fun fact, if you look in some legal documents, marijuana is spelled M-A-R-I-H-U-A-N-A, not the J, and it still shows up in legal documents today because that's how they thought it was spelled, and some of the legal documents just never changed it. All right, so 1931, so from 1910, ongoing anti-immigration fear-mongering coupled with questionable research linking marijuana to violent crime led to 29 states outlawing marijuana by 1931. So I picked a random year here, 1956, to give you an example of what cannabis was like in the 50s, when there was a lot of the communist witch hunts and things like that. So despite more medical research done on marijuana and the benefits for medicinal capacity, a first offense marijuana possession in 1956 was a minimum sentence of 2 to 10 years with a fine in today's dollars that would be almost $250,000. That's crazy, right? So let's move up to the 70s. The Controlled Substances Act brought all the substances together in the US, which were in some manner regulated under existing federal law, and they were put into 5 schedules. And I'll get to that in a second. Another fact, Nixon had the opportunity to make marijuana legal in the 70s, but he declined to do that. So this is kind of how we're then stuck with the schedules. And then lastly on our timeline, let's legalize it. California legalized medical marijuana in 1996. They were really trailblazers. 2012, Washington State and Colorado legalized recreational usage. So let's talk about this. What do I mean by Schedule 1? So marijuana is listed as a Schedule 1 drug. And there are some examples here of other drugs that are in Schedule 1. And one of these things is not like the other, is what I maintain. So the key components is that there's no current accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. That's how these drugs were scheduled as Schedule 1. What is currently maybe going to happen is the executive branch has said that they will change it to Schedule 3, which doesn't make it legal, it just makes it less difficult to obtain, and it will also open up banking opportunities. Again, I'll get to that later. So this is what the Schedule 1 is what I'm talking about, in case you've ever heard that and didn't know what that meant. So here we go, you are here. So this is billion with a B. The cannabis industry is a massive moneymaker. That is one of the reasons why it is also good to hack, or from the criminal standpoint, is to hack it, or to try to steal, because there's just money. They're making money hand over fist, and yeah, it's just going to expect it to go up and more. And this is also other products too, not just straight cannabis, the related products. Who knew cannabis was a job builder? That's quite a lot of jobs. I was surprised to see that, but it's also, it's a moneymaker, it's a job builder. And taxes. The motivation for, making this more accessible is for people to pay taxes on it. And you can see from this excerpt here, it's surpassing alcohol sales. So yeah, if states want to get some money, this is one way that they could do that. So let's take a look again. We're in the present. This looks pretty cut and dry. Apologies for anyone with color blindness. The lightest of the grays is the orange, and that means that they have recreational and medical. The darker gray is just medical, and the actual gray is that they have no programs. And you're like looking at this and going, this seems pretty cut and dry, right? This looks pretty easy. Well, that's the simple version. It gets a little bit more complicated. So you'll see on the last one, you'll see where North Carolina said that they didn't have any programs, and then there it's colored in. So at least they have at least decriminalized it, but they haven't done anything else with it. Texas, for example, says CBD only, but there's an asterisk to that. It's you have to go through a lot of hoops. It's not that you can just go through that. So a lot of the states have very different rules, even jurisdictions within the states can have some different rules. All the green states here you see where it's fully legalized, a lot of them can have plants at home. They can grow their own marijuana, but it'll be different from state to state. Washington State, you can have, I think it's 6 plants, whereas another state like Maine, it might be 1. So this is really confusing, right? This is everything's, so imagine if you're running, you know, a multi-state cannabis company, or you're an MSSP with all these cannabis industry clients. There's different laws and things for every different jurisdiction. It's crazy. It's all over the place. So it's kind of like herding cats at this point. So hopefully, if it's made Schedule 3 and everything can become cohesive. And honestly, it reminds me of APTs. Aren't those naming things all over the place? You know, one company calls it this, one company calls it that. I kind of had a little bit of PTSD looking at this map going, this is the APT model. This is what they do to us. So let's go local here. So what do we have locally? So here in Pennsylvania, there is medical, medicinal, and I have a medical marijuana license through my doctor. I have no with an asterisk for recreational. Apparently it is being debated in the Pennsylvania Senate. What I read is that the Republican Party voted against the most recent plans, but not because they objected to cannabis. They just objected to it being sold through the state stores. So they want to revamp the process, the selling process of it, which kind of makes sense. I mean, the state stores make sense, but they're also kind of a mess too, if you ever try to order anything through the state store. So, so stay tuned. That might be changing in 2026. Delaware, do we have any Delaware people here? Woo! So you're recreational. You can do medical and recreational. And then Jersey, we've got any Jersey folk here? Oh, hey, Jersey. Okay. So yes, you were also medical and recreational. So the reciprocity, like the word means, means that, so because it says no, it means that somebody from a state that has medical, say like, where's our medical? Say like North Dakota, they wouldn't be able to come to Pennsylvania and buy medical weed. But Pennsylvanians can go to Washington, D.C. and get cannabis legally there with our medical card, because there is a reciprocity in Washington, D.C. So that's something to be mindful of if you're traveling. Also remember, now you do you, but technically crossing state lines with this product is illegal. Again, you do you, your mileage may vary. I'm not judging, but I do feel compelled to let you know that it was very clear in this article I was reading that it is very illegal. Even in between Delaware and New Jersey, they even gave the example of the Delaware Memorial Bridge. Even though Delaware and New Jersey are connected with the Delaware Memorial Bridge, and they're both yes to medical and recreational, you cannot take cannabis between those two states. So I don't know, maybe check the river underneath the bridge. There might be a lot of like cannabis disposed or something. I don't know, I'm just kidding. All right, so let's look at the industry risk profile. So why is the cannabis industry a prime target? I've kind of touched on some of that. First, you know, it's fragmented, inconsistent. The laws are different everywhere, and then sometimes you get into, you know, local rules that supersede things. It's really confusing. And I'm glad I'm not a law firm librarian anymore, because researching that would be a nightmare. It's cash heavy. Because it's a Schedule I drug, you can't have banking. You have to have cash for everything. And that's a problem that I'll that's a physical security issue that I'll get into in a couple of slides. You know, and then also, you know, all the regulatory consequences. You know, you have to make sure, if you're going to have a company, have a cannabis company, you have to make sure you're on top of all these ever-changing laws and things. And this last one here, does this sound familiar? The growth is outpacing how they can lock down their systems. I'll show you in a couple slides some company databases that were just wide open on the internet, because I guess they don't know. Can you save that for the end, please? Because I'll lose my train of thought. Thank you. So the cannabis industry gets the same things as everybody else does. They get phishing, there's business email compromise. Insider threat is actually a big one. Have some more info on that. So this is why they're a prime target, and in some ways it's really not different than any other industry, but the main factor is the product in this industry is illegal. So that kind of makes this all kind of weird. But this is why they're a prime target and why we're probably going to be seeing more of these incidents in the industry. Okay, so let's start. I was really proud of this slide. I thought this was cute, but thank you, Gemini. So let's start. So the cannabis industry has supply chain. We all know, I'm not going to bore you, we all know about all the issues with supply chain. So what does the supply chain of the cannabis industry look like? Well, first, you have your greenhouses and your grow facilities. And now you might be thinking, well, what cybersecurity things are there? Well, you have all those IoT devices. You have the lights that are, you need special lights to grow this inside. You need to have certain temperatures. Things need to be cultivated. So yeah, somebody could go in and shut the lights off if it's connected, and then you've lost all your crops, and then you're out of business. So that's the one concern. And then there's also just the physical people, maybe physically stealing from the field and stuff like that. So there's a lot of physical and digital security, just even at the beginning with the greenhouses and grow facilities. Next, we have the processing facilities. Same thing, all this IIoT, industrial Internet of Things. All of those things are connected. These are processing facilities. Things could go down that could, ruin the product. And that's another thing to be worried about. Storage facilities. Now, this is an interesting one. An HVAC could be compromised, like a la Target, because the storage facility needs to be a certain temperature. 70 degrees Fahrenheit or below is the optimal temperature for storing cannabis. So again, if somebody goes in and messes with that, wants to sabotage a competitor, they could kill their whole stash by messing with the HVAC. And next we have transportation. There's a boat there, there's trains, there's trucks. That's another growing area of areas for compromise. So that's another thing. Something could be hijacked. Your whole value of your business could be hijacked by something, or somebody could take control of a train, which is, I see that happening. So next is the dispensaries and the other markets. You have to transport it to there. Then once it's there, is the dispensary physically secure? Are the other markets, are these secure? Are there opportunities for cyber theft or for physical theft? And then lastly, the consumer. And the consumer is important because their PHI and PII are going to be in these cannabis systems, especially if it's a medical marijuana license. This is going to be registered with the state. So some people, like myself, I'm giving this talk, so I don't care that people know that I have the license, but not everybody's like that. Some people might want to keep that private. So I think there's a lot more cybersecurity and physical security concerns for this industry that I think people realize, and that's what I wanted to show with this talk. So there we go. All right. Physical security threats. Cash rules everything around marijuana. Thank you. That's not really what it means, but yes, it is cash only. If you've ever been to a dispensary, you'll know a lot of times they'll have a man trap, where you have to go in, wait for the door to close, and then the other one will open. There'll be lots of cameras. Legally, they can't have the merchandise out. It has to be back there, and there's also certain kind of locks you're supposed to have. I've seen all the requirements, and it's dizzying. There's very specific locks you need to have for all of these. So also with cash is employee theft. It's estimated that 90% of the cash theft at dispensaries is employees. 10% was like outsiders, like other like normal robberies type of things. But yeah, the insider threat is huge. And when you're dealing with an all cash business, and also supply was also stolen, not just cash. So physical security is a really big threat, and there's also so many requirements for it. I just want to tell you a quick funny story. So I was at a dispensary, and a lot of them have like the frequent user plans and things like that. So I was trying to log in on my phone to get the app to come up, and I was having a hard time. And long story short, the issue was me. The problem was between me and my phone. But the woman working at the dispensary said, "Oh, no wonder you can't get on the app. We have really tight security here, and I don't think it'll let you get on the internet." And I'm like, what? And she said something like, "Our windows are really thick," and stuff like that. And I was on the internet. It was just that I was using the wrong email to try and log into this app. So of course I had to make it a teachable moment and be like, yeah, that's not the reason why. And I was asking her, I was like, do you think that the windows are like protecting you from stuff? And she did. And so bless her heart, I just made it a quick teachable moment. But that gave me the thought of, well, if the dispensary employees aren't really familiar with the cyber threats, maybe they should be, because she was trying to be helpful, but she was spouting a lot of not good information. But yeah, it was just me. I was using the wrong email address. So that's just another thing that I think is interesting, that I've found that a lot of the people there, they don't seem to be very familiar with the cybersecurity threats. But whatever, you give me a minute and I'll talk to you about it. Whoops. Okay. Digital security threats, the usual. They're also susceptible to social engineering. I mentioned about PHI. Again, it's no different than a lot of other industries. It's just that you're dealing with an illegal product. But I'm going to show you some examples in a second about actual cyber attacks that have happened. Another one of their, I'm going to do that first. Another threat is disinformation. And here's some actual headlines with their citations. The last one I just love to keep in because it makes me laugh. No, Schumer is not seeking to legalize marijuana use and sales on Amtrak. Could you imagine being on Amtrak and going to the cafe car and getting trochees or something? That's crazy. So misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, that is also a threat. Like this middle one, the misinformation is then causing bills to be created and things like that. So misinformation is a threat as well. Okay, so let's talk about some actual cyber incidents. So most recently, the Ohio marijuana card. Yeah, unencrypted, non-password protected database had about 1 million records in it and was found. And I want to give a shout out to Jeremiah Fowler. I don't know him, but he seems to be doing a lot of good independent research. So look him up. I think he's on this list like twice, I think, for finding things. So yeah, so if you're in Ohio and you have a medical marijuana card and you didn't want your spouse or your parents or somebody to know about it, well, it was just leaked onto the internet because they didn't bother to protect it. Mars Hydro and LG LED Solutions. Okay, so this is an example of the IIoT compromise, Industrial Internet of Things. The LG LED Solutions, those are like the grow lights that you need in the grow facilities, the hot lights. So this company, they had open databases, they had all that information, 2.7 billion records exposed. And I remember when I was doing the research for this, seeing lots of articles of security-minded folks being like, hey, if you have equipment, it is vulnerable, and making it that simple. So yeah, these lights were compromised, and as I mentioned before, that could kill someone's crop if you wanted to sabotage them. I'm going to say this is called Stizzy. I don't know how 3 I's are pronounced. But I don't know if anybody ever heard of Everest, the threat group Everest. They compromised Stizzy through their point of sale vendor. So that, and again, sound familiar? It's not much different. And again, they're getting information out there that some people don't want out there. And lastly, this is an older one, but again, third party. They had a third party compromise. And then Ontario was left without cannabis for a period of time until they got up and running again. So these are 4 examples, and I believe Jeremiah Fowler was also involved with 1, 2, and 3. So that's why you should look him up. But I think he just does general research. I don't think he's specifically to cannabis, but yeah, he's been doing great work finding stuff. Okay, so there's a lot of information out there, and I love doing OSINT talks and PAI talks, but I didn't have a ton of time, and there's so much information. I was trying to wrap my arms around the world. So I'm just gonna kind of give you the amuse-bouche of the OSINT and PAI, just to kind of get you started and give you ideas. But first I'm gonna start off when you look at cannabis, look at business news, you look at industry news, you look at investors, want to see what are investors still investing in cannabis and who's doing it, who are some of the big companies that they're investing in, because they're probably going to become targets now. And then legal, the laws are changing, you have to stay on top of that. News in general, that's where you'll pick up on the misinformation, the disinformation, and who are the vendors. Know who the vendors are. Today's vendor may be tomorrow's, victim of a third-party compromise. So it's good to know who the players are in the field and where where they're going if you're interested in this industry. Oh, I see you're taking a picture. I'll hold. Okay. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to start off with is. You can search for patents using the keyword cannabis, which I've highlighted there. So why do you want to search for patents? Well, if anybody does competitive intelligence, you might want to see what your competitors are up to, or if you're just a cannabis aficionado and you want to know what new things are maybe coming down the pike. You can easily go to the patent website for the US patent. So I just picked this one randomly. Vaporizers having multiple heating elements. That sounds interesting. So then I actually clicked through it, and then I see it's through VPR Brands. Oh, okay, so it's not just this guy out here doing it himself, it's this VPR Brands. So then I go to Edgar, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, and find out, okay, so yeah, there it is, Sunrise, Florida, VPR Brands. You get the former names. If you, I think the former name is useful too, because you can also see if there was any past breaches in the other companies. And then the SIC there, the Standard Industrial Classification, there's a number there. If you want to pivot to other similar companies, you search by the SIC code. That's not cannabis or cybersecurity related, but from my years as a law firm librarian, that's a very useful way to find similar items that you're looking for. And I have the 10K highlighted. If you don't know this already, companies that are registered with the SEC, they have to say when they have a breach, a cyber incident. It's going to show up in the 10K. So sometimes if you're wondering how does the information get out there so quickly, even before the company has a chance to respond to a breach, it's a lot of times because journalists are sitting on top of the SEC database waiting for 10Ks to be filed and scanning it for keywords, which I've learned over the years. Sometimes companies will spell cybersecurity as 2 words to kind of throw people off. I know that sounds stupid, but I've seen them use all kinds of, somebody was loving a thesaurus because I've seen ones where the terms are intentionally meant to not cause panic and fear, but it's yeah, you got God. I know what that means. So that is one way that you can follow a trail to find out what is up and coming and who's doing it and what else is in store. And also if you're curious, go to other cannabis companies, look up their 10Ks, see if they've had any issues. So as far as laws go, I highly recommend NORML. It's normal.org/laws, because they're going to be on top of the changes, and it's very clearly marked out. So remember I was telling you about 1956, about the fine, 250,000 and the 2 to 10 years. So yeah, Pennsylvania, 30 grams or less is 30 days and $500. So that is much better than $250,000. So I recommend, if you want to know what your state or another state, if you're going on vacation and you don't want to know what the laws are, don't guess, don't use AI, go to a real source. NORML is one that I trust, or just go directly to whatever the state's website is and look through there. Do not risk this, because some states are very strict. And also for international. In another version of this talk I get more into the international stuff. Yeah, don't play with that. Jamaica, for example, cannabis is illegal. Yes, I know they grow it there, but it is illegal. So you have to be careful with that about transport and laws. But you also want to look at this too. Maybe if you're looking to get a job in another state, you need to know, what their laws are. And again, things are constantly changing. So there's so many good reasons to look up and compare what different states have. So some other sources that I recommend to get right to the source of this, the American Bankers Association, they have a cannabis banking group. So if your concerns are regarded to banking, they have newsletters, they have blogs, they have a site. Check out what are they putting out. Similarly, the American Bar Association has a Cannabis Law and Policy Committee, so they're going to be on top of the changes. That's a good resource. American Bar Association, their journal has a cannabis law section of their journal, which has lots of good stories and information in there. This one I highly recommend you can join. So the ISACs, like different ISAC, ISACs. This is an ISAL. It's the Cannabis Information Sharing and Analysis Organization. I believe it's free to join. I'm a member. It's nonprofit. It's a good, community resource. And there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of InfoSec people in it, because that's how I found out about it. So it's a good resource. And lastly, the National Cannabis Industry Association. They're a trade association, but again, they're the oldest and the largest, and these groups are places where I would trust the material that they're putting out, so I wanted to share them with you. Try to stop just random Googling and clicking on whatever article and thinking that's the right information. When it comes to something like this, you can't be wrong, okay? Go to the right sources for it. Okay, so what's next? As I mentioned before, we're waiting for the executive branch to move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Hopefully that will happen, but I don't know, so we'll wait and see. Again, Pennsylvania recreational cannabis for adults might be 2026. I know that the governor is very keen to get it passed, because if you saw the map before, Pennsylvania is basically surrounded by states with recreational. So I think Pennsylvania will not want to lose that tax money and might get it together. But anyway, if you want to track it, those are the House bill and the Senate bill for Pennsylvania if you want to track it. And lastly, the Safer Banking Act. Originally it was the SAFE Act, and then it became the Safer Banking Act, and that's how you would look it up. That would make the financial segment of the cannabis industry be able to do banking and things like that. But again, that first bullet point really is the major one that needs to happen for a lot of other things to fall into place. So as I promised, my QR code and link is up there again. These are the ways to get in touch with me. Feel free to subscribe to my blog. I post every Friday, 5 for Friday, which is 5 stories from the week. I also on Mondays post What Did I Miss? It's the InfoSec news from over the weekend. As I say, I paid attention to the news over the weekend so you wouldn't have to. And I have a lot more. I have a lot of OSINT blogs on there as well. So I must have talked a lot faster than I realized because I have time. But I know that lunch is next, so I also was trying to be very courteous and not make you late for lunch. So That is my talk. Thank you for coming, and I'm happy to answer questions. Yeah.
Mind if I ask two totally unrelated, very
Sure.
specific? One, do you know what became of, it was just a drop in the fire hose, right? When they reopened the government after the shutdown, didn't Mitch McConnell try to get something in about banning cannabis products?
That rings a bell. I'm not like super on top of like all the breaking news. I'm sorry, but you can use one of the sources I posted to look that up. That does sound familiar, but I'm not.
There was this moment where all the stoners I knew were panicking.
Yeah, there's some talk about, somebody was brought something forward about banning hemp. I must put that as a slide, but I didn't, since nothing really became of it, I didn't know what else to do. But yeah, there are some people, trying to make hemp illegal. So they're not going to be able to use it as money in Pennsylvania or Virginia or anything.
What about, you mentioned about the personal data in particular. I was wondering if you, in particular, might be able to speak to this, having a medical card.
I'll try, yeah.
Does that fall under HIPAA? Like, what does fall under HIPAA in terms of end users, in terms of consumers? Like, if I go to a dispensary, I'm a recreational customer. I'm not protected by HIPAA, right? Are you?
Yeah, well, because also they don't know who you are, because you're just going to go in and you don't have to show any ID or anything, right?
I do in Maryland.
You do in Maryland, okay.
And this is, you're speaking about the educating the bud tenders a little bit.
Bud tender, that was the word I was trying to think
I
of.
walked into a dispensary where there's multiple people sitting at the counter waiting for business, and they still direct me back to a freaking internet kiosk to make an order. And then I put in a fake name, right?
Yeah.
And then I come up to the thing and they ask for my ID, and they're like, I don't see you in the system. Because I'm not putting my shit in your third party.
Okay.
Duh, right? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. I don't know that I have an answer for it, but I'm actually surprised that they would give you the product if the name didn't match.
The ID.
That surprises me that they would do that, because.
But again, my question just being like, would I be better protected with a medical card because I fall under HIPAA regulation and they have a more locked down AWS server somewhere?
Well, no, that was one of the breaches on there, though. I don't know how to answer that, because
Usually I can take them to the cleaners a little more if they violated my HIPAA rights, right?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you had a question?
Yes, two quick questions. So when you say cannabis industry, I saw you talked about more of like, the recreation and medicinal, like pharmaceutical or, drug side. But do you also encompass like hemp textiles, universities doing research, facilities verifying the composition?
I mentioned this wasn't comprehensive. I didn't have time for all that, no.
Okay, but when we say the industry, does it include those elements, or
This talk was about the legal cannabis industry as a whole and whatever falls under that. The elements that I showed, I picked from this. So yes, there is more to it. Like I said, that's why I said this talk is not comprehensive. I wanted to focus more on like the consumer concerns and the cybersecurity concerns. So yeah.
And real quick, one follow-up question. From your experience, like, who are the entities that are most interested in threat research in this cannabis sector? Is it just
Me?
is it government entities? What's the appetite?
I mean, anybody can research an industry. I mean, I used to work at a law firm, so you would want to do, I mentioned competitive intelligence. You might need to do background research, so you want to look into a company. Any kind of, regular business research. I mean, it doesn't, I'm not sure how to answer your question. Anybody can do this research, and it can be used for all kinds of things. Venture capital companies might want to look into different aspects of the industry to see where to invest. So there's all kinds of practical applications for this. I just wanted to point out the cybersecurity elements because I don't think that's ever been discussed before. I'm not aware of any other InfoSec talk that has covered cannabis. So that's why I wanted to do this, was just to kind of get it out there and get people talking. Okay? Yes?
To your point, not many industries would actually be doing this, especially because it's hard for them to get paid for consulting because it's an all-cash business. So they have a real difficult time paying other vendors to do anything, to have contracts, and it's a huge liability for them to consult on a borderline legal business. That's one of the reasons Schedule 3 is so important. By the way, you can't actually sue them until you prove actual cause, like they've actually hurt you. So it's not just, oh, you did something, it's you have to actually, some of the victims on the dark web got their stuff, are having trouble.
I think he's going to lay down in the parking lot of a dispensary and say you got hit.
It's not easy money.
Yeah.
But my bigger question here is because it's such an underdeveloped industry and everybody is so hesitant to help it, basically, because it's not profitable at a certain point. There's lots of money, it's not profitable, so the bad guys are getting in and getting in there anyway. Do you have, in speaking with people who are in this industry, particularly the supply chain, how often have you managed to convince them to patch their growth?
I mean, I don't work in this. This is.
Let me rephrase. In talking with people who are in the industry and in the community or seeing this stuff online, not that you have consulted, I can imagine it would be very difficult to have those people in the industry to care about it versus other things. Have you seen anyone successfully care about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than myself, I guess not. Oh, please, go ahead, Kelly.
Because it seems like this is a Sisyphean boulder.
Oh, yeah.
It's like anything, right? It's not universal. I have a friend who used to work for a large chain of the dispensaries with their own operation in California. He did information security for them. They took it very, very seriously. He was there for like a decade. But that was a very large company in California. They got started in the 90s, right? So
they're more mature as opposed to
exactly, and this is in the Bay Area. Like this all makes sense, right? But your average other,
Thanks for coming.
right? Your average other new grow operation, new dispensary, whatever.
S&B versus when they're not thinking in terms of industry. We're thinking just you have the lights on.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's not ubiquitous. It's going to vary, and that's why talking about it more is hugely important, right? And having an informed consumer base who's going to ask those questions, like the HIPAA question.
The cash issue I knew about, but
Yeah.
the other bits were really interesting. Thank you so much.
Sure, yeah, and just to share with you, like this talk came about, sorry, I'll get to you in a second. This talk came about, I was literally floating in my pool, and I was thinking, I was trying to think of topics, specifically OSINT, that I haven't seen at conferences before. And I was brainstorming, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, I was like, cannabis? I don't think I saw cannabis. So so because of my medical marijuana card, I do have an interest in it. Because of my curious cybersecurity mind, I was like, oh, I think there's a lot of opportunities here. So really, this is just, I like to do research because I'm a nerd. So this is all just about, trying to spread awareness, trying to highlight it, and maybe if somebody does find a job opportunity or research opportunity out of it, then great. But this is more just like awareness raising. I wish I had good answers to some of all your great questions.
I don't smoke, so I have zero exposure to any of this.
And I used to be really like anti-cannabis before, and but I use it for medical, and I don't mind sharing this. I actually had to switch over to medical marijuana because my doctor's like, you're going to kill your liver with all these other painkillers that I needed to take. I wasn't abusing them, but he's just like, why don't we look at medical marijuana? Because he's like, your liver's starting to like not do. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, like I said, it's just funny because like people who know me are like, you do? And I'm like, well, yeah, because I wanted to keep my liver and do that. I'm sorry, I think you had a question, then you had to.
So have you ever talked to, I know you said you talked to the bud heads behind the counter. Have you ever talked to someone actually in charge and
No,
convince them? No?
let me think. I did talk to the manager of one of the dispensaries, just kind of chatting as I was waiting for stuff. He was just like, oh, that's really interesting, and send me your slides, and blah, blah, blah. And then I never like heard anything. I mean, I wasn't like looking to get a job out of it or anything, but yeah.
But also, like, for the other side of that, I don't even know what to call it, but like, the unregulated, like, people just selling
Oh, yeah,
marijuana.
on the street, yeah.
I've always wondered, like, how will that clash?
Thank you.
And I don't know if you had any.
You know what? I didn't want to touch street drugs, so I didn't look into any of that. So
How would I, if I wanted to look at that, how would I go about researching?
well, I would start with the ISAL, the ice. Yeah. I would try the ice. Thanks for coming. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Are you good? I think we have one last question. Sorry. Hold on one second. Yeah.
So in the supply chain, you had grow, process, store, transport, and dispense. It seems like grow, process, and dispense are industry specific, right? But in the storage and transportation, that's where you could use pre-existing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Are there storage and transportation companies that are specializing in?
In cannabis, yeah. The one in Ontario that I mentioned, that third party was specifically their storage. Where was it? Yeah. Oh, did I not? Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Down there. Yeah. That was their storage facility. Yeah. I'm not familiar with all the names just yet. Are we doing good for time? I got the 5 minutes. And I think you had a question.
Yeah. First of all, great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely picked up some new OSINT ideas just watching this. So
Oh,
thank you for
great.
that. As a fellow medical user, my only lighthearted question to you is, what's your favorite strain?
I just know them by their like silly names.
Yeah.
Like I like birthday cake. There's one like gasoline or something.
This is cool.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Who says sour diesel? That's it. I knew it was gasoline something. Yeah, I don't know. I also like it's the CBD THC combo. That helps particularly for my specific ailments. So it's not, I'm not chasing a high for that. I'm just chasing pain-free. So the CBD with the THC is really helpful. Yeah, I hope. Yep. But yeah, birthday cake is awesome. Sorry. Yes.
Are there any security things that you've seen that the cannabis industry is leading edge on rather than just like
Oh.
every other
No, no.
technology they're all psyched about?
You know what? Kudos to you for giving them that that credit, but no, they're not. I think we have to cut off now. But no, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate all your great questions. Thank you.